What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new StarCraft 2 video. This one was played at the IEM in Katowice and was one of the games within the round of 8. Spawning here in the top left-hand corner of Port Alexander Ellie, playing with the red Zerg pieces. One of the best StarCraft 2 Pro gamers currently on the planet. His name is soO. And his opponent spawning in the bottom right hand corner of the map, playing with the blue Zerg pieces. He's currently the best Zerg and best current StarCraft 2 Pro gamer on the planet. His name is Serral. So guys and girls, this game and this series in particular was played at the IEM in Katowice, and as I said, was one of the games within the round of 8 of that tournament. So all these games do matter in the grand scheme of things, as these players are trying to move on to the semifinals in the IEM in Katowice, and it's been an absolutely intense tournament so far that of all the games that we've casted. And I'm really excited about this one because these are two of the best Zerg players in the world. I mean, you could argue that other players like Dark or some of these other guys are of the same, skill set, of course, of like soO and even Serral, but these are two amazing players, two absolute forces to be reckoned with. So it'll be interesting to see how this game kind of in this series unfolds before our eyes, but we're gonna go ahead and see what both our players are deciding to do in the early stages of the game. Looks like a hatch gas pool opener is going to come out of Serral, so very standard on his end, and it looks like the same exact build can be said for soO. So you can look at the top left hand corner for that of that production tab and see the early stages of the game. You'll see a lot of times with the ZvZ matchup, you'll generally see the build orders are very similar unless one of the players is deciding to go for a kind of cheesy build or hyper aggressive build. So both these players don't generally do things like that. Sometimes Serral will like to kind of throw his opponent off. I guess you can obviously say the same thing for soO, but pretty standard on both sides of the map, at least in the early stages. We're going to see a couple of queens coming out of both players. We're also going to see the metabolic boost upgrade being researched out of the spawning pool, which of course is a Zergling speed upgrade. And really what I love about the ZvZ matchup, I know a lot of people don't like the Zerg versus Zerg matchup, but I absolutely love it because of just how intense it gets extremely quickly. It is very hard sometimes to keep track of all the action that's going on all across the map, but looks like both players are going to decide to go ahead and get those quick third hatcheries. We're going to have a couple of Zerglings that have moved across the map for Serral. Going to start nibbling away at that third hatchery. Looks like a couple of Zerglings have come out for soO on his side as well. We're going to also see Baneling Nest coming in now for both players, and very, look at, I mean, absolutely identical production tabs by both these players. Even at the passing the 3-minute mark. So you'll see that quite a bit, though. You'll see a lot of times that those build orders will stay similar. Usually later stages of the game is where it kind of changes, and we see really what these players are deciding to do as far as their unit compositions and such. So it looks like metabolic boost is now just finishing up for both players. We are going to see Serral getting, of course, that Baneling Nest is going to be finishing up here very shortly for him. And it looks like that creep spread is starting to move out for both players. But as of right now, I mean, both players giving each other kind of that mutual respect. But it looks like soO is planning on trying to get a little bit aggressive here, as he's going to go ahead and get a Baneling. Looks like the same can be said for Serral. But both players just trying to kind of test the waters and see if they can get an advantage in any way, shape, or form in the early stages here, as Serral is trying to get some scouting information. Does look like he is not going to be able to do that. But there's a handful of Zerglings for soO moving across over towards that third hatchery. They are going to be met by some of Serral's Zerglings, and it does look like some of those. It looks like one of the Banelings is going to have a little timing there, get a couple of kills. Nothing too crazy as of yet, though. It looks like the Roach Horn is what the follow-up's going to be for soO, as Serral, as what he does so well is getting very good scouting information, and both players going for the Roach Horn as well as the lair, so they can start getting those higher tier lair-based units. Gotta say, I love the skins though by Serral as well. This skin pack for within the war chest, absolutely awesome. We're gonna see the +1 upgrades coming in now for both players out of the evolution chambers, and still up to this point very similar on those production tabs. You know, just two very similar in skill are these two players. soO's really the one who's trying to kind of just test the waters as much as possible. He does not want Serral to be comfortable so far in the early stages. We are going to see Cloud Reconstitution being researched for Serral. But it does look like, you know, just looking for those angles. That's really what it comes down to. The micro is absolutely imperative in this matchup. We are going to start seeing the roaches now coming out for Serral. And you gotta admit, both these players, it's kind of a tricky scenario that they're in. It's like, you know, who really wants to attack first and try to really begin the engagements here, because you're playing the best player in the world, that is soO. And, you know, if you're Serral, it's kind of the same thing. soO is a very, very talented Zerg player, one of the best in the world as well. And so you got to be very careful how you go about doing these things, as far as trying to get, you know, whether it's scouting information or trying to get a little bit aggressive, as we are going to see the Spire now coming in for soO. So I like that decision quite a bit. But we are going to see the big point of interest is the Nidus network. So this is going to get very interesting very quickly. Looks like Serral wants to get aggressive, wants to be the one really creating the engagement here, as that Spire's going to be finishing up here shortly. Roaches are trying to move across the map. We are also going to see those Zerglings that are moving towards that 4th base location. I think that this timing push came in when Serral saw exactly what was going on with a 4th hatchery coming in. Does look like soO knows about this Nidus network now. But this could be very, very dangerous, as Serral is starting to move over towards that 3rd base location with a bunch of roaches. And there are roaches that are being met here, but now the Nidus worm is out. And here we go. Looks like a lot of those queens are being target fired down, so they're not going to be able to transfuse these units. Here we go. Serral is going to start moving in, not afraid whatsoever. The drones are going to be pulled off the line at that 3rd base location. The question is there going to be enough here for Serral to really take out all of these units and do enough damage? More and more units are starting to come in, and it does look like Serral is going to be forced back. Another Nidus worm is going to be coming in now. But this is starting to get very interesting, as there are another Nidus worm in the main base location. Serral at this point is absolutely everywhere, doing a lot of damage in that main base location. This is starting to get really, really dangerous. All he's got to do is go back into that Nidus worm, and GG is called, and Serral takes game number 1 in a very dominating fashion with brilliant play with the Nidus network. I hope you guys did enjoy this game between Serral and soO, and if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe for new, stay positive, and as always, I'll see you guys all in game number 2. Alrighty everyone, well, game number 2 in this best of 5 series finds us on New Repugnancy LE. Spawning here in the top right hand corner of the map, playing with the blue Zerg pieces. He's currently up in this series and wants to keep it rolling in his favor. His name is none other than Serral. And his opponent spawning the bottom left-hand corner of the map, playing with the red Zerg pieces. He's currently down, but certainly not out of the series just yet. His name is soO. So, guys and girls, game number 1 in this series was a pretty exciting one. There was moments that it looked like soO was the one who really wanted to dictate the pace of the game, but then Serral saw that soO was going for a 4th hatchery, and instead of going on his own 4th hatchery, decided to go ahead and use the Nidus network to go into multiple bases, wreaking havoc and forcing soO to GG out of that first game. It all comes down to the micro and the ZvZ matchup, and Serral just played an absolutely, played very brilliantly in that first game, especially when we're talking about those engagements. The good defense a lot of times will translate to really good offense when it comes to this matchup, but just StarCraft 2 in general. So what was very interesting was up to that point of the Nidus network, when Serral went for the Nidus network switch, it was very interesting because both players had very similar build orders up to that point. It was very similar, and then all of a sudden soO was going for, he was kind of like going for that, just macro focus game. and going for the Spire, whereas Serral just went ahead and decided, you know what, you're going to go for the Spire, you're going to go for that 4th hatchery. I am going to do a Nidus network push and get my units across the map, and it absolutely worked brilliantly. Let's see how soO responds here in game number 2 as he decides to go for that hatch gas pool opener, so very standard. The same can be said for Serral. He's going for a very similar build, and so the early stages, it does look like it's going to be, you know, pretty standard on both sides. Now, we are going to see Serral going for the metabolic boost upgrade a little bit earlier than his opponent, and it looks like soO is going for a couple of queens here. He's going to try to drone up and get saturated on 2 bases, but it does look like there are going to be a couple of Zerglings moving out for Serral at this point. And I gotta say that, you know, soO, even though, you know, the question is he going to be rattled now that he got beat by a Nidus network push there? Or is he just going to go, you know, back into what he was planning on doing in game number 1, which was that, you know, that macro-focused game? Because I think that's the biggest question mark that I would have at this point is he going to, you know, go for something relatively standard or something aggressive? Very interestingly enough, though, we are going to see that he's going to be going for the very quick lair, try to get those higher tier lair-based units and skipping out on the 3rd hatchery, at least as of right now. Serral going for that 3rd hatchery at this current moment. And so this is going to get interesting very quickly. He's going to go for the evolution chamber as well as the roach one. So I'm assuming that there's going to be a push here sooner rather than later from soO. It looks like he is kind of, you know, he's continuing to drone up, but he's getting that roach warren out relatively quickly. Evolution chamber is out. Now, Serral, the same can be said for him. He's got that evolution chamber going up. He's got that roach warren that's beginning, and he's got a bunch of Zerglings that are starting to move across the map here. So the big question now, is there going to be enough defense here for Serral, or I'm sorry, for soO? It does look like he's got enough queens here to kind of hold off against all of these Zerglings. Now, Serral is going to see that the 3rd hatchery is not up yet, so he is going to wonder what is happening at this point as he's got more and more Zerglings that are starting to move across the map here. He's possibly going to try to get into that natural base location that could absolutely wreak havoc. We are going to see Glad Reconstitution being researched for soO, and then we're also going to see those +1 upgrades started out of the evolution chamber for both players, for, of course, those ground-based units. So, I mean, it looks like both players really, you know, they're once again kind of giving each other that mutual respect that they do deserve. But here's the thing. The longer the game goes, Serral's going to be ahead of the economy as far as his economy is going to be booming versus soO, who is still on just 2 bases. So I'm a little bit concerned right now what the plan is here for soO, as Serral's starting to get fully droned up on 3 bases. He's now getting his lair just now, so it's a little bit late, but I'm wondering, is soO going to try to pull what Serral did and go for the Nidus network possibly? That would be kind of interesting, trying to kind of get an eye for an eye here. At this point, he's trying to hide a lot of these roaches. He's still trying to kind of hide some of them. So it does look like those roaches are now out. Glad Reconstitution's research, and more of those roaches are now starting to be added to the mix. So soO, trying to be as sneaky as possible, is going to hide some of those roaches. But now Serral is going to see what is coming. And now Serral is going to have to get a lot of roaches out, which he's got 13 on the production tab right now as soO is starting to move across the map. Is there going to be enough here, though, to really make a dent into this army composition of Serral, which really is mainly just roaches and a couple of queens? Now, we are going to start seeing some Ravagers coming out as well now. So this is going to get interesting. soO trying to kind of make up his mind whether he wanted to attack and when he wanted to. I feel like he should have maybe attacked a little bit sooner, but nonetheless, soO is doing that right now as he's starting to move on to that 3rd base location. I just don't know. Is there going to be enough here for soO to hold on? Serral is really got a nice fortified position at this 3rd hatchery, which is going to make things very difficult for soO. soO's now going ahead and getting his 3rd hatchery just now, and it does look as if those +2 upgrades are going to be started here. I just wonder, is there going to be enough here for soO, as soO's going to try to get a couple of units here for free. The micro back and forth is going to come into play. Serral kind of unsure whether he wants to really take this engagement fully as more and more Ravagers are being added to the mix here. soO knows he has to make a dent here, and if he doesn't, it could spell absolute disaster, and Serral could take a 2-0 lead over him, so he's got to really take this engagement as well as possible. The micro is coming into effect, and it's hard to tell who's got the lead right now. soO is kind of chipping away at this army, slowly but surely, surprisingly. Beautiful play here. soO has taken a lead in the supply count. Does look like he's got more and more roaches that are going to be coming out. He's kind of droning up as well. So we're kind of at a stalemate here. The question, a real stalemate at this third hatchery of Serral. And now you got more and more roaches that are being added to the mix. Serral is just now getting Glow Reconstitution researched. Now, here's the thing, is that I'm just wondering, is there going to be enough here once again? And once again, here we go. It looks like these units are going to try to pounce on Serral, trying to throw him off a little bit off guard. More and more of those vials are kind of landing on some of these units. They're trying to target fire down those Ravagers, having a little bit of a hard time. Glow Reconstitution is going to be finished in less than 5 seconds for Serral. Missile attacks level 2, though, finishes up for soO. And once again, it looks like Serral's defense has held, at least for the time being. And now you gotta love the position Serral's in. He held on. He kind of didn't take any critical losses. He's fully droned up on 3 bases. Now, soO, of course, is not out of this thing just yet by any stretch of the imagination. But I gotta say, Serral's defense has been absolutely on point right now. And it'll be interesting to see if he decides to really just start attacking, and that's exactly what it looks like he is doing. He's going after these Ravagers, trying to, you know, pick off a few of these Ravagers as he can. But once again, we are seeing the Nidus Network. Wow. So Serral, I mean, the real point of emphasis here is he is feeling confident right now, and he's going to go for another Nidus push. And he's just thinking to himself, why not? But he's running these units just straight in, and GG is called. And soO is able to even up this series 1-1 with what looked like a very just, you know, it was kind of standard. It felt like that Serral, you know, he was going to go for that Nidus Network. It might have worked out. Maybe it wouldn't have. But nonetheless, I mean, you can see soO did, you know, he took a nice lead, but I think Serral was just thrown off just a little bit there, and he kind of ran his army into soO's army and was kind of just, you know, just running his units across the map when I think he just, it was probably a misclick, but nonetheless, soO is able to tie up this series 1-1. I hope you guys did enjoy this game between soO and Serral, and if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe for new, stay positive, and I'll see you guys all in game number 3. Alrighty everyone, well, game number 3 in this best of 5 series finds us on year 0 LE. Spawning here in the top left hand corner of the map, playing with the blue Zerg pieces. He wants to get this series rolling back in his favor. His name is Serral. And his opponent spawning on the other side, the top right-hand corner of the map, playing with the red Zerg pieces. He wants to keep the momentum going from game number 2. His name is soO. So guys and girls, this series, in this game in particular, was played at the IEM in Katowice and was one of the quarterfinal games of that tournament. So all these games do matter in the grand scheme of things. You want to of course, win these games, you know, in any means necessary, so you can move on to the semifinal of the tournament, which is arguably the second biggest tournament of the year for StarCraft 2 pro gamers, second to none other than BlizzCon. So I'm excited to see what these players decide to do here in game number 3, as soO was able, you know, to recover from his losses of game number 1, losing by a Nidus Network push by Serral. And in game number 2, Serral decided to go for the Nidus Network, but there were just a few engagements that soO really did handle properly and was and was able to do enough damage. I did feel, though, it was just a few misclicks by Serral in game number 2 that really lost him that game. I mean, I felt like he was in control, played very good defense, which usually translates to really good offense, but he misclicked part of his army, it felt like, which ended up, he just lost a lot of units for practically free, was going for the Nidus Network push, or timing push once again, and it just did not work out in game number 2. So, we're tied up now. And now you got the best player on the planet in Serral versus one of the best Zerg players on the planet in soO. And so now you got two juggernauts in the StarCraft 2 Pro scene, tied up 1-1 in a best-of-5 series. What do you do if you're one of these players? Well, it looks like if you're Serral, you're going for the standard hatch gas pool opener. He is not really phased, it looks like, whatsoever. He's not going to go for any cheese as of yet. We are going to see the same exact build out of soO. So very similar in build orders. We are also going to see the metabolic boost upgrade being researched by both players. And so, you know, relatively standard, you know, from both of these players. We are going to see them both going for very quick third hatcheries as well. And so, will we see a macro-focused game here, and really without, you know, much cheese by either player? And, you know, I think we very well might get that in this game, because we're getting a good sign here by seeing, you know, the 3 quick hatcheries. We're seeing both players going for very similar, you know, very similar build orders. We're going to see the Baneling Nest coming out of each of these players, and so. You know, a lot of times, guys, when you talk about the current meta of the ZvZ matchup, you see a lot of times, you know, the Zerglings into the Banelings, and then, of course, Roaches, Ravagers, and you can like, kind of move up from there, possibly Hydralisks. So, you know, you got those different unit compositions a lot of times from these players, but at the same time, you know, these players have seen each other's, you know, replays. They've studied how these players, you know, play this matchup in particular, really any of the matchups. But it is very important to see exactly what your opponent is doing, or it tends to do in these matchups. We are going to see Serral going for the Evolution Chamber now. And the one thing with the ZvZ matchup is sometimes it is just so hard to track everything that's going on. I gotta say, it's just sometimes it can be very, very difficult to just track everything, because there's just so much happening all across the map at pretty much all times during this matchup, and that's why I enjoy it so much. We are going to see the Roach Warren coming in now for soO. Beautiful little scout here by Serral, and we're going to see the Evolution Chamber now coming in for soO as well. And I gotta say, you know, by the looks of it, it looks like we're possibly going to get a standard macro-focused game. We're going to see the lair coming in by both players. We're going to be able to get those higher-tier lair-based units. And, you know, so it looks like both players giving each other a lot of mutual respect once again. You know, Serral gives that respect until he decides to go for that Nidus Network timing push in both games. So, very interesting. It all comes down to the micro, though, in this matchup, especially when you're talking about the Zerglings and the Banelings. You do not want to lose these units for free, and Serral just lost all those units for free. And those might not seem like the biggest battles, but those small battles, if you can win those, a lot of times you will win the war in the end. Looks like we are going to see Nematized Carapace coming in now for Serral, which of course is the Overlord speed. We're going to see that is going to be researched now, as well as those +1 upgrades for the ground-based units. We're going to start seeing some units moving across the map here for soO. He is going to get a couple of Zerglings. We're going to start nibbling away at some of those drones. Banelings also kind of came in there as well. Nematized Carapace is going to be finishing up in a couple of seconds here now for Serral. And so he's going to have that Overlord speed, which is very, very helpful. It's one of my personal favorite upgrades regarding the Zerg pieces. When I'm using the Zerg pieces, it's absolutely the best, in my opinion, or one of the best one of the best upgrades you can get as a Zerg player, just because it's all about information and that scouting your opponent, and it's so much easier when you have that speed on the Overlords. But nonetheless, we are going to see now Glad Reconstitutions being researched by both players, and so now we're starting to see the techs of choice that these players are deciding to go for, and I think we might be in for a pretty big battle here, because it looks like both players are really trying to trade blows, but it looks like soO is really on top of what's happening as of right now. We saw a couple of banelings go in there and just doing a little bit of some damage, and those are the hits that really can hurt in the end. Now, we are going to see some dropper lords coming in now for Serral, so I'm wondering he might start going for some drop play. Glauber Constitution is going to be finishing up here shortly for both of these players. We're also going to see another evolution chamber coming in now for Serral. And now those dropper lords are going to be carrying 4 banelings, but there is a push that is moving across the map now of a lot of roaches and some ravagers, and it looks like Serral's going to see exactly what's coming. Serral does have a decent sized army. He's got the advantage with those ravagers, but man, this is going to be interesting how this one turns out, as we are going to see, looks like that I'm not sure where that dropper lord went, but nonetheless it looks like Serral is on top of this, wants to see exactly where this army is heading to. And here we go, we are going to see that dropper lord, and now soO is going to see that dropper lord, and so that dropper lord is going to try to land right on top of soO's third base location. This could be absolutely terrible. These banelings are going to be able to make the connections that they need to, or are they? I'm not sure what Serral was just doing there. I don't know if that was a good decision whatsoever. These banelings could have had some incredible connections, and now this dropper lord might have a risk of dying. Oh, bad. This is very uncharacteristic of Serral losing that dropper lord, and now it just feels like soO has just been on top of this throughout the course of this game so far. He's going to see another dropper lord now coming through, and I just don't know how I feel about this, as Serral is now going to be having to kind of split up his army, and now soO is splitting up his army as well. So here we go. It looks like soO really wants to take on this 4th base location, and he is going to create the problem here as he is pouncing on this army right now. It looks like those supplies are still very, very similar and equal, but at the same time, it does look like soO is just really creating problems as he's trying to hit at multiple angles at once. At the same time, it looks like those dropper lords are starting to drop more and more of those units, but man, a lot of damage is being dealt on the opposite side on Serral's end, as there is just a lot of units that are getting absolutely decimated by soO at that 3rd base location. And it looks like once again Serral, or I should say soO, wants to continue the engagement here. He does not want to let up. He's got the momentum moving in his favor, so he wants to just keep this thing going. And here we go. It looks like Serral is going to catch part of this army off guard. Beautiful play here, and it's so back and forth at this point as soO is starting to move once again towards that 3rd base location. He wants to do more and more damage over here. Got to be so careful, though, with this engagement. A lot of Ravagers over there, and some good biles could spell absolute disaster for this army, as Serral is now at max supply, and soO is very close to that max supply as well. So the hive is going to be started now for Serral. We're going to see the spire switch by soO, which I actually like that decision a lot, because we're going to be able to start seeing maybe Mutalisk coming out, and that's going to be a problem because there's not really any air-based units here by Serral. Now Serral, of course, can do that relatively simply with with getting like a Hydralisk den or something, but at the same time, soO is just creating so many problems at multiple angles here. He's now at that 4th base location. He's trying to snipe down that 4th base location, and I think it's all about the strength in numbers. It looks like he's got a little bit more than Serral at this point. The question is he overextending, though, as this army is just weakening and weakening. The biles are landing for both players, and it's so even on either side. What a crazy engagement by both of these players. And more roaches are now being added to the mix on both sides. More heavily, though, in favor of soO, as this spire is going to be finishing up very soon. The hive does finish up, and now we're going to be seeing what does Serral decide to do at this point. because now it looks like those +3 upgrades are coming in for Serral. More and more units, once again, are just trying to threaten this fourth hatchery as it is burning right now, and he is going to need to transfuse that if possible. At this point, try to get some queens over here, but this base is really burning, is on fire, and the question is soO going to be able to take advantage of that as these engagements just keep going back and forth? He's getting a lot of those units, and now Serral has given up on the fourth base. That is a massive pickup there for soO, and he's going to continue moving onward. He is not afraid at this point. soO is really creating so many issues for Serral. This is absolutely brilliant play by our red Zerg player. He is creating, he's consistently reinforcing this army, trying to do as much damage as possible. There are a lot of Ravagers, though, on Serral's end. You got to be very, very careful. You do not want to overextend at this point. You were able to get a hatchery. You just do not want to. You do not want to give Serral an edge. I mean, when we're talking the best player on the planet, you just cannot give him any advantage whatsoever. And this army, though, of Serral is starting to, is quite large at this point. So here we go. We are going to see now mutas coming out. Now, it looks like Serral knows that this is coming, so he's got some Hydralisks that are going to be coming in to play. But I gotta say, though, I still like the position soO's in. He's on more bases, and he is containing Serral at this point, which is exactly what you want to have happen. You really want that, you really want to create the issues, and that's exactly what soO's doing at this point. But one little overextension, you could turn the tide of battle. We are going to start seeing Vipers coming in now for Serral. So Serral's got some Vipers coming in. We are going to see now those Mutalisks are out. We're also going to see a macro hatchery now for soO. So soO is really trying his, his damnedest to just continue macroing up a bigger and bigger force and just overwhelming Serral whenever he can. So once again, Serral is trying to take that fourth hatchery again, and Serral is going to try to get the surround here. He might actually have an advantage here as he's getting the surround on soO. This could be a massive game changer, but the Mutalisks are coming in, and those Mutas could be the tail of the tape right now as soO is holding on for dear life. He is getting a good amount of value out of those Mutalisks. The Hydras are starting to do a little bit of some damage, but I think there's just going to be a little bit too many Mutalisks. It could actually almost turn into one of those scenarios where there's just not that many left over. But I think Serral, that was a nice engagement by Serral, taking out some of those, just taking out that army was absolutely huge in getting this base up, this fourth hatchery, helping Serral stay in the fight even though his supply he is behind. He does have Evolved Groove Spines that is being researched here and finishing up in less than 5 seconds. While this has all been going on, though, soO has been, re-upping his army, and so it looks like he's going to start. I would assume he's going to go, possibly straight on after soO's army, or I'm sorry, Serral's fourth hatchery. But it's hard to tell. It really is at this point. Who's really in the lead? I mean, you got to think soO is in the lead at this point. He did take out that base, and now, Serral's been kind of playing catch up. Serral has not been able to do really any damage whatsoever on the opposite side of the map. It's really been soO dictating the pace of the game, and that's exactly how he likes it. And when you're playing Serral, you have to do that if you want to have any chance at all at beating him. As we're approaching that 16-minute mark in this game, just absolutely, just a macro-focused game, man. It's been absolutely incredible up to this point. It just comes down to these engagements. These little battles or these big battles really do and will determine the outcome of the war, as those Vipers now are going to get some much-needed juice for their abducts and blinding clout. So I gotta say, though, guys, I really feel that soO is in the lead because he is just keeping, at this point, he's keeping Serral at home. and that is huge. That really is. Now, it looks like Serral is going to start moving out with, you know, a handful of these roaches. But while that's been going on, soO is on the opposite side of the map. He is trying to create more problems over that third hatchery. Now, we are going to see these roaches are going to be moving onto soO's neck of the woods, and he is going to start going after that roach warren. This could be a big pickup here, but the main battle is happening at that third hatchery once again, and these roaches are going to be able to get that roach warren. That's a big pickup for Serral. Roach warrens being recreated though right off the rip for soO. But the big thing for me, the reason why I say soO is definitely in the lead, look at the minerals and look at the gas. He can re-up this army so easily and so quickly because he's on those 4 bases. Now, these roaches are down here trying to wreak a little bit of some havoc, but I just wonder, they are going to get cleaned up here sooner or later. Oh, man, it's so hard to say who is in the lead right now. I gotta still say that soO is in the lead because of his mineral count and because of his gas count. Serral is obviously, you know, he's ahead of the supply. Well, now it's, you know, the supply is tied, but I just feel that at this very moment, it really feels that both these players are really just trading blows as they continue doing exactly that at this point, just going back and forth. I don't know, though. I mean, there's little battles happening all over the map. We're seeing this handful of mutalisks are just chasing down some of these roaches, and they're just getting kill after kill. And those don't seem like massive victories for soO, but they really are in the grand scope of things. We are going to see that 5th base is now finished up for soO, and we are going to see a surround, and it looks like once again soO is just on top of you know, really the defense right now. And as I've been saying, guys, defense translates to good offense, generally speaking, and Serral now knows he needs to do something. He's got the Vipers as well as those Hydras, and those roaches. Ravagers are moving in to that 4th base location. He wants to really turn the tide of battle here. It looks like Serral may have found a little bit of an advantage here as he's doing a lot of damage, but at the same time, is there an overextension here? You got to be so careful, as we know, when you're going onto the opponent's side of the map, you need to do some damage. It looked like Serral did do a little bit of some damage. I don't know if it was quite enough though, as it looks like he does have to go back home. But it's been so back and forth. I mean, we're approaching the 19.5-minute mark. There has just been activity all throughout the map. And I really, as I've said, you know, Serral, it's felt like he's been behind ever since this 4th hatchery was taken out that first time by soO. He just has not been able to regain momentum. And we have another push here with a handful of those roaches, but at the same time there's a push at that 3rd base location. soO is going after that 3rd base location, and it looks like there's going to be an eye for an eye, but it looks like soO is all over the map. He is trying to do as much damage as possible, takes out 1 base. He's going after possibly another, but is there going to be an overextension here as Serral is trying to get his reinforcements over there? Oh, I don't know if I like this engagement by soO, but nonetheless, he is hitting at multiple angles at once, trying to get the surround on this army. It looks like soO wants to try to close it out. I just don't know if he has enough to do it, as Serral is still trying to cause problems on the opposite side of the map. Both players are all over the place. Looks like there's going to be enough here to at least close out that part of the battle for Serral. And Serral has taken a lead in the supply, but wow, what a turn of events there. You know, it felt that soO had a good advantage, but I don't know. It now feels like Serral has, after getting, you know, this 5th base location, doing some damage to that 4th base, it's hard to tell. Once again, very difficult to tell, because now look at that mineral count for soO. Very low. He still has a nice gas count, but it was very low from where it was. So now this is anybody's game. It's all going to come down to the micro. It is all going to come down to the strength in numbers here, as both these players look like they want to clash once again as we are approaching that 21.5-minute mark. A game on epic proportions right now that is just going absolutely back and forth. Who is going to pull out the victory here and go up 2-1? We're going to find out here very soon, guys. Or it might not be soon. This game might just keep going. I mean, when you look at it, these players are giving each other respect overall. soO is the one trying to really create problems, but Serral is just going along with those problems and creating problems of his own on the opposite side of the map for soO to have to deal with, as in, you know, handfuls of roaches trying to take out certain bases, or just, you know, taking out drones, and that all really does help in the grand scope of things. But here we go once again. soO, it has eyes on that 4th base location, and those bios are landing. It just all comes down to it really just comes down to how these players can do here when we're talking about I mean, just back and forth engagements. Who's going to have the better engagement here? And it's hard to tell because both of these players are just going absolutely back and forth. What it's going to really come down to, in my opinion, guys, is who is going to make the first critical mistake. And that is really, because it felt like Serral made a few mistakes. It felt like soO's made a few mistakes as well. But who's making the who's going to make the drastic mistake of the overextension or just the miss micro? And that's going to determine the outcome of this game. And I got to say, it's going to be demoralizing for the player who loses this game, or at least it very well could be. So, once again, the supplies, very even. Once again, we have Serral is going for another base here. He's going to be, of course, his 5th base, or his retaking kind of, getting a 5th base once again. But it does look like soO's going to find out about this. He is not going to have any parts of it. And once again, we have a roach down here at the 6th base, or I'm sorry, the 5th base location of soO. And it does look like soO is going to force the cancel there on that base. Or I'm sorry, not the cancel, but is able to take out that 5th base location, that newly acquired 5th base for Serral. And that could cause some problems, but there's the abducts here, and here we go. Looks like Serral wants to try to kind of just slowly chip away at this army. It's just a hard engagement. What a difficult engagement by either one of these players. Neither one of them wants to make that mistake, so they got to be extremely careful at this point. Man, talk about two of the best players out there, guys, in the world of StarCraft 2. What these guys are doing, playing this in a way, these engagements and such in a way that you are just managing multiple armies at once, and just the amount of micro that goes into it is just absolutely incredible. So here we go. Looks like once again soO wants to stir up the engagement. That's absolutely what he wants to have happen. Beautiful splits here by soO, and it looks like they're going to try to have these to try to just go for an eye at this point. Who's got the advantage right now? Serral is ahead of the supply, but soO is not afraid. He wants to surround this army. Here we go. Blinding Clouds are going to be activated at this point. More and more of those Blinding Clouds are coming in. Serral's supply is, or I'm sorry, soO's supply is starting to absolutely plummet right now, but Izzy got a little bit of an advantage. Oh my god, it is so back and forth. soO once again going after that 3rd, or technically the 4th base location. He's doing a lot of damage, but once again, Serral is trying to, we're almost looking like a base race type of situation is possibly what's going to end up happening, because Serral is sending a handful of roaches across the map, doing havoc on the other side of the map at the same exact time. But once again, we're at a stalemate here. I mean, it really is like a stalemate. Neither player are really getting any minerals. I mean, Serral has no minerals whatsoever. He is mining from across the map, and that might be a real issue for Serral. But I just think that soO might have a bigger army right now. I mean, that's what I think this really comes down to, is soO might have just bled his opponent dry unless they get the surround here on all these units. It's the biggest question right now. Who's going to win this series and take a 2-1 lead over their opponent at the IEM Katowice, trying to win a trip over to the semifinal of this tournament? It is so close. Oh my God. This is an absolutely insane matchup between these two players. soO, once again, does not want to overextend, but oh my God, what an intense game here between these two players as we approach that 27-minute mark. Who's got it? You got two Vipers in the sky, so you could say that Serral's got the advantage because he's got the eye in the sky. But the question is there enough here for soO to hold on? There is just not that many units left over. soO's micro has got to be like on point here, and I think he might just be able to do it as the micro comes in, and soO is able to take a heartbreaking game there for Serral. 2-1 against the best player currently on the planet. I hope you guys did enjoy this game between Serral and soO, and if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you stay positive, and I'll see you guys all in game number 4. Alrighty everyone, well, game number 4 in this best of 5 series finds us on Cyber Forest LE. Spawning here in the top left-hand corner of the map, playing with the blue Zerg pieces. We have the best player on the planet. He's currently down, but certainly not out of this thing just yet. His name is Serral. And his opponent, spawning in the cross position, playing with the red Zerg pieces. He's currently up in this series and wants to close it out right here and right now. His name is soO. So guys and girls, this game and series in particular was played at the IEM Katowice, was one of the quarterfinal matches of that tournament. And I have to say, guys, what an intense series this has been so far. Between, not only two of the best Zerg players in the world, but two of the best StarCraft 2 pro gamers in the world. I mean, it has been such a back and forth. Game number 3 was absolutely so back and forth. Came down to the very end. What a heartbreaking end for Serral. But it just was, sometimes, guys, it's just a matter of numbers as far as your army composition goes. And that's what it was at the very end of that game. And so now I expect Serral, we're going to see, he is going to give it his all here. He is on the brink of elimination. What do you do when you're going up against a guy of the likes of soO, who is one of the best Zerg players out there? What do you do? I mean, this is for a trip to the semifinal of the tournament, and it's all on the line here. Second biggest tournament of the year for StarCraft 2 pro gamers, second to BlizzCon. What do you do? Well, we're going to see Serral go for the hatch gas pool opener. So very standard opener. The same can be said now for soO, who is on a roll here. Won 2 games in a row. He is playing, very well, playing out of his mind. He was really putting the pressure on Serral throughout the course of that game number 3, and I'd like to see more of that here in this game, because I think one of the only ways that you're going to have a chance at beating Serral is by, really just kind of being the one who stays aggressive and not allowing Serral to dictate the pace of the game. So we'll have to see in this game what both these players decides to do. I mean, it looks like soO in this game is going to go for the quick lair here. And so he's going to go for that and kind of skip out on that third hatchery, whereas Serral is going to go for that quick third hatchery. And we're going to see soO going for the Roach Warren as well as the Evolution Chamber. So I'm wondering if we're going to see a push here early on by soO. Serral's going to go for that Evolution Chamber as well. Roach Warren's going to be coming in a little bit after soO. So, beautiful scout here by Serral. Serral doing Serral-like things. He is probably the best player I've ever seen when it comes to scouting information. He is so good at scouting. He just gets so much value out of such little amounts of units, whether it's Zerglings or Overlords, whatever it is. He wants to know at all times what is going on across the map with his opponent, and so that's what makes him just you know, the best player out there. So soO, on the other hand, you know, he just plays, you know, he has a very straight up mentality. Of course, scouting and such is very important to him, but he just tries to outplay you, outmaneuver you, and essentially outsmart you at some point or another throughout the course of a game and throughout the course of a series. We're going to see Glowry Constitution being researched right now out of that Roach Warren for soO. And, but, you know, we're also going to see soO going for that quick, or I should say a little bit of that delayed third hatchery. Both players going for the +1 upgrades out of the evolution chamber. And so, you know, relatively standard on both sides. Like I said, I'm wondering if we're going to see a push here at some point out of soO. I would kind of doubt it, simply because Serral knows that kind of saw exactly what was going on the upside of the map with that scouting, with that beautiful scout, with that Zergling that he got. So I don't know if we're going to see a massive push out of soO. It's definitely possible, of course, but nonetheless, it looks like we might be getting ourselves a little bit of a macro-focused game once again here in game number 4, and I don't think we should have it any other way, because these are two of the best macro focused players out there. Missile attacks level 1 is going to be finishing up for both players here. Glowry Constitution is going to be finishing up for soO a little bit earlier than Serral, and it looks like he's going to be sending more and more roaches to the mix here of his unit composition. Serral looks like he's kind of preparing for having to play some defense at this point, which Serral's one of the best players out there on the defensive end. That is without question. But soO, I got to say, he's very good on the defensive end as well. And I got to say that soO's offense is very much so an exciting thing to watch, because, man, he will create problems for you very quickly. Now, the same can be said for Serral. Serral's very known for hitting at multiple areas at once, whether it's through, you know, using the Nidus network or using some dropper lords, or you know, just hitting in multiple areas, trying to surround your army. He just has a way that makes him such a challenge to play against. Glowry Constitution does finish up, and it looks like Serral is going to start maybe testing the waters and see what kind of information or what kind of engagement he can take, as it looks like he has got that high ground advantage. But it looks like soO is going to start chasing after the army, might get a couple of roaches for his troubles. But nonetheless, it looks like both players, you know, still giving each other that respect that they do deserve. Nebotized Carapace is going to be finished up in less than 10 seconds for Serral. As I've said many times, one of my favorite upgrades for the Zerg pieces. Just love being able to see exactly what your opponent's doing with those Overlords to get that good scouting information. And it does look like, you know, both players still very similar in that production tab. Looks like the +2 upgrades are going to be coming in for missile attacks, level 2. So for those ground-based units, it's going to be finishing up in less than 10 seconds for soO. And it looks like he wants to, you know, maybe create an engagement here at that third hatchery of Serral. Serral's defense, though, you cannot underestimate it, as it looks like we are going to see our first engagement. It looks like Serral wants to pounce on this army right here and right now, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Trying to micro back just a little bit. Is there going to be enough here, though, for Serral to hold on? I don't know if I like this by soO. Looks like he is continuing the engagement here. Those biles are landing. Oh, I just don't know. Looks like Serral might just have enough here to hold on against this army. Beautiful play here so far by Serral. It looks like kind of almost an eye for an eye, but it looks like Serral did have just a few more Ravagers to hold on against that push. And just like that, Serral's taken a nice, comfortable lead at this point in the game as we approach that 8.5-minute mark. Whew. That was kind of risky, I feel, by soO to kind of stay engaging when I feel like he should have been, Mike, kind of, backing off just a little bit to make sure that he wasn't overextending. It looked like he did overextend just a little bit there, and that could be an issue. Obviously, soO is certainly not out of this game just yet, by any stretch of the imagination. One overextension or misclick by Serral, which we saw happen earlier in this tournament, or earlier in this series, did cost Serral game number 2. So we are going to see Serral going for that 4th hatchery right now. The same can be said for soO. So both players, once again, they're starting to kind of give each other that mutual respect. I like it. I like it. They're kind of, they go back home, kind of gather their thoughts, take a breath, and get ready for that next engagement, and strategizing the best way of approaching it. As you can see, overseers and overlords all over the map that are just trying to really scout and see what type of information they can get as far as when one army's moving out or another. This is StarCraft 2 at its best, guys. When we talk about the real-time strategy game of our time, they talk about StarCraft 2, and they will talk about StarCraft 2, and that is without question. Hopefully, guys, we get a StarCraft 3 at some point or another, hopefully sooner than later, because I would love to see a continuation of this franchise that we all love so much, our favorite game of all time, right? It's so much fun, and it's the best real-time strategy out there. Would love to see a continuation of it, but that is a conversation for another day, as it looks like soO is going to try to hit it at multiple angles once again, which is what he is so good at, going after that 4th base location here. Looks like Serral does have some units back here, but it looks like there might just be a little bit too much of soO over here, as we are going to see max supply for both players. The main engagement, though, is happening near the middle of the map here. Is Serral overextending, or is he going to kind of overstay his welcome here near that main, or I should say the middle spot of the map? Ground Carapace level 1's finishing up, as well as Burrow is going to be finishing up in less than 5 seconds for Serral. And so, as I said, I would love to see Serral kind of get on the aggressive side here. His defense has been absolutely on point, at least as of right now. He's playing very well. He got a spine crawler at that 3rd hatchery. He is playing absolutely brilliant defense right now, and I would love to see that him kind of move in for some stellar offense. So here we go, splitting up his army as best he can. The micro back and forth. It's all going to come down to the numbers here, as Serral is trying to get the surround on this army. Looks like that's exactly what he's trying to do. Is he going to get it here? It looks like there is a very good chance Serral might be able to get the surround here. That is exactly what's happening. Serral, beautiful play here, is now taking an absolutely commanding lead over soO, and that could be the exact engagement that Serral needed to acquire a victory, possibly, as he's starting to move far onto soO's neck of the woods. He is trying to really tie this series up here. Is he going to be able to do it, though, or is there a little bit of an overextension here by Serral? It's hard to tell. The high ground goes to soO, but the numbers may be in favor of Serral as reinforcements are coming, and it looks like Serral, once again, he wants to finish this thing out right now. He wants to close this out. You can just tell he has got a fire that is definitely to close this out right now, as he has more and more units that are moving across the map here. And I'm surprised he has not taken this base quite yet. Looks like he is planning on doing that here shortly. but he is going after some of these units at the third base location. That fourth base is under a little bit of fire, but this third base is absolutely going to be under some serious firepower because there is just too much there of Serral. GG is called, and Serral evens up the score. I hope you guys did enjoy this game between Serral and soO, and if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you stay positive, and I'll see you guys all in game number 5. Alrighty, everyone. Well, it all comes down to this. Game number 5 in this best of 5 series finds us on Kairos Junction LE. Spawning here in the top left-hand corner of the map, playing with the blue Zerg pieces. He's the best player on the planet. Tied up the series and wants to win this series and move on to the semifinal of the IEM in Katowice. His name is Serral. And his opponent, spawning in the cross position, playing with the red Zerg pieces. He's currently tied. He wants to win this series and move on and kind of go against what everyone has talked about, that he cannot close out tournaments, and wants to flip that script on everyone's heads. His name is soO. So guys and girls, it all comes down to this. It all comes down to a game number 5 that has been a series of back and forth, a series that has been absolutely incredible in every way, shape, and form. I gotta say, it has been an absolute treat to watch and just cast the moments that I've just had my jaw drop in this series, really in this tournament as a whole. Because when we talk about the IEM in Katowice, we talk about a tournament that is the second best to BlizzCon in a lot of people's eyes. And man, these games show exactly that. So it all comes down to this. You know, Serral, the best player out there in the world, is trying to move on to the semifinal, but he has a guy in the way, which is soO, who is got a massive fire under his belly or under his ass to really change the narrative that he can't close out tournaments. So we're about to see who's moving on to the semifinal in the IEM in Katowice. And so it looks like both players going for that hatch gas pool opener, very standard openers by both players. Serral is going to go for that, going for the, he's going to get that Zergling speed upgrade out of the spawning pool. And so that'll, of course, the most standard upgrade for a Zerg player. The same can be said now for soO. And so, Metabolic boost, guys, as I've said many times, the most standard upgrade for Zerg players. And it looks like both players are going to be doing exactly that. But we are going to see Serral going for a quick third hatchery. So, Serral, if you're Serral, what do you do in this situation? You want to close this thing out? soO has just been, been hanging around this entire time. How do you close this thing out? And I think if you're Serral, you do a little bit of what you did in game number 4 that was so successful. You really try to take the fight to soO. And if you're soO, I think you do vice versa. You need to be the one creating the problems for Serral. You have got to be the one pushing across the map and having really good timing pushes, and just keeping Serral on his toes, making him uneasy is exactly what it comes down to. But it's all going to come down to the defense, guys. The defense is going to translate to good offense. So it's going to really be interesting to see how that kind of plays out, as we're going to see both players go for the Evolution Chamber as well as the Roach Warren. And you're going to see at the top left-hand corner, you'll see very similar build orders. We are going to see the lair coming in, though, for soO a little bit sooner than that of Serral. Serral has not as of yet gone for those higher tier lair-based units, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. But we are going to see Glowry Constitution coming in, though, for soO, for the Roaches. And so as this game goes, I mean, the reason why I've said this, I love the ZvZ matchup because of how intense it gets all across the map. So we're going to see a handful of Zerglings moving across the map and try to get the cancel possibly on this third hatchery of soO. And this would be a very big pickup here for Serral. If he's able to get the cancel, is able to do exactly that. Beautiful pickup there by Serral. And those are the small victories or the small battles that you can win that will... that could very well end up helping you win the war here. And believe me, Serral feels that he is in a serious war against soO, who is extremely hungry to win not only this series but the tournament. Beautiful scout there by Serral, seeing the timing on the lair that's coming in. Galactic Constitution is going to be finishing up in less than 10 seconds for soO. And so we're going to see this, you know, you're going to start seeing, it looks like, we're going to be seeing both players kind of getting fully saturated on their bases. Then they're going to, you know, getting these upgrades. Missile attacks level 1 is going to be finishing up for both players here in a few seconds. And who's going to really try to draw first blood there? I mean, I guess you could say Serral did somewhat with getting the cancel on that third hatchery, which was a nice pickup. And as he is trying to get fully saturated on all 3 bases, that's very big. But it does look like soO is kind of, it looks like he's thinking about pushing across the map. I don't know if it would be a really good decision because it's all going to come down to the engagements here. But it looks like, once again, Serral's going to have a run by of some of these Zerglings. Going to try to get a couple of drones for his troubles, but not doing a whole lot as of yet on either side of the map. Both players are kind of giving each other that mutual respect. Galactic Constitution will be finishing up in less than 10 seconds now for Serral. And we're going to see those plus two missile attacks is being researched now out of soO. And once again, we're seeing Nematized Carapace being researched for Serral. And it's, as I've said, one of my favorite upgrades for the Zerg units, simply because you can get that great scouting information. And that's what Serral is so well known for. Getting scouting information with minimal based units and doing damage with a very small amount of units is what Serral has been very well known for. Doing more with less, so to speak, is what Serral is so good at. But soO, this is a guy who, you know, he's always been on the cusp of real greatness, I guess you could say, when you think about it. He has been in the finals of many tournaments, just has had issues with closing out, but he's just a player on the cusp, and he has been for years, but one of the best players in the world, and there's just no doubt about it. And no debate whatsoever, and I don't think Serral would disagree, because he is on the brink here. soO has taken the best player on the planet on the brink of elimination here in this IEM Katowice tournament. Ground Carapace level 1 is finished up now for soO, and sooner rather than later, I think we are going to see some massive engagements coming in from both these players, because they're giving each other that respect. But what that means is, when you're giving each other respect, as in letting your opponent kind of drone up and do whatever it is they please in the early stages, that means that you're going to be able to build a pretty nice, sizable army. And you can see both players have got really nice-sized armies right now. Compositions of Roaches and Ravagers right now. They've also got Overseers and Overlords flying all over the map. But who is really going to try to draw that true first blood here? Because it really comes down to the engagements. And that's exactly what both players are wondering, as we have now hit that max supply for both players. I like the current situation that Serral's in, but there might be a surround in store right now for soO. Serral's trying to kind of keeping out of that as of right now. Not taking any unnecessary risks, as Serral does have some Roaches that are moving across the map at that third base location. They are doing a lot of damage. We've got to keep an eye on that, as we see soO is really pushing in to the third base of Serral. Here we go. The big engagement, though, is happening at the third base of Serral. Question is there going to be an overextension here by soO, or is Serral spread thin because some of these units are across the map? Oh, I just don't know. soO is hitting in multiple angles at once. He's got a couple of units hitting that 4th base as well. It's all going to come down to these engagements. The micro has to be absolutely on point. Serral is trying to hold on and move on to the semifinal, but soO is creating some problems here on the opposite side of the map. It is so neck and neck. Oh my god, who has got the advantage here? Looks like both players are spread so thin. We saw in game number 4, this became an issue for soO, but the reinforcements are coming in just now for soO. And soO is starting to create some significant problems now at that 3rd base location. Is there an overextension though? That's the question. Is there a big overextension? Looks like this 3rd base is going to fall, and a lot of these drones are falling with it as well. Oh man, soO is starting to take a nice little lead. GG is called, and soO moves on to the semifinal at the IEM in Katowice. I hope you guys did enjoy this game and this series between soO and Serral, and if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace.